This is going to be a double feature video covering two topics, as you could probably tell by the title. I want to cover all the different ways of enhancing gear in this game, and I already did cubing, so I guess next is flames and Star Force. Let's start with flames. Flames are these little items that give you random bonus stats on most of your equipment. The equipment it works on is your weapon, pocket slot, armor, such as hats top and bottom, shoes, gloves, and capes, and a specific handful of accessories, specifically belts, earrings, face and eye accessories, and pendants. Rings, shoulder, secondaries including shields and kataras, badge, emblem, and heart do not get flames. Before I talk about flame types, I have to first briefly talk about flame tiers. The highest flame tier you can get is up to 7. The value of these tiers vary depending on item level, if they count as boss equipment or not, etc. For flame types, the 3 most common ones you'll come across are powerful rebirth flames, typically called just red flames or flames, eternal rebirth flames, which are sometimes also called rainbow flames, and black rebirth flames. Reg server also gets level specific flames, though I don't see these much for sale over there, or in much use or high demand. I'll still mention them and also mention that they function roughly the same as the other flames, and only go up to level 150 for gear it can be used on. I admittedly couldn't readily find much information on the highest tiers these flames get, but it seems to be mostly between tiers 1 to 4. There's also apparently event-only flames, which I'm not too familiar with, aside from the Karma ones. Karma ones can only be used on untradeable items, and are account transferable only variants. Usually these come from most event shops throughout the year. Anyways, red flames simply reroll the stats of gear, and can give stats up to tier 6, with a high chance of it being tier 4 or higher. Rainbow flames have a better chance of higher flame stat tiers, and can go up to tier 7. Also apparently, these are guaranteed at minimum, tier 2 for normal equips, and guaranteed tier 4 for things like boss gear. Black flames work similarly to bright cubes, meaning it gives you a selection between the before and after flames. These also go up to tier 7, and aside from being able to choose which flame you want, function the same as rainbow flames. All flames can drop from all bosses, with the higher tier ones like Lucid Onward having better odds of dropping rainbow and black flames. Now, let's talk about boss flames. These are also known as flame advantage items, according to Strategy Wiki and some other sites, usually called boss flames though by the community. These items roll a minimum of 4 lines with all flames, and usually give way more stats than non-boss flame items of similar level. These bonus stats go way high up depending on the item level too. Like compare Hilla's Stone of Eternal Life, which sits at a whopping level 0, and its flames, compared to Pink Bean's Pink Holy Cup at level 140, and then compare those to Will's Cursed Spellbook. So currently that's 3 whole things to factor in: flame tier, boss flame item or not, and item level. There's a whole lot of boss items to list, but a general rule of thumb is if it drops only from a boss, chances are that's a boss flame item. Unless it's anything from any of the 4 Golix sets, because Nexon forgets that exists most days of the year. It also applies to things like Absolab and Arcane Umbra, since those cores and droplets come from bosses too. Also their boxes they drop occasionally. I'll put a link to a site with mostly complete list of what does count as boss flames in the description. I say mostly complete because it doesn't include everything newer, like the Eternal set that came out in the past few months. It does have most, but I don't know how up to date it'll be kept in the future, with newer items and such. One exception to all Absolab and Arcane gear getting boss flames is Zero. They don't get boss flames on their weapon. Maybe in the future they might, but currently the best they can get is up to tier 4 with red flames, and up to tier 5 with rainbow flames. This even applies to their Genesis weapon. Next, let's talk about flame scores. This is some slightly more hardcore Maplers' go-to way of quickly determining if the flame they rolled is good enough or not. Even for me, I barely know how to calculate it. I'm bad at math, so bear with me as I crawl through this mud. Mainline stats are worth 1 point, secondary stats are worth 0.125 points, or an eighth of a point. Each attack, and or magic attack if you're a mage, is worth 4 points, and each 1% of all stat is worth roughly 8 points. It scales up the further in the game you progress, in both gear and level, going up to around 10 points in late game. The full calculation, for those curious, is this. Weapon flames, such as boss and damage lines, aren't in any of the flame score calculations as far as I could find. A good score to aim for with flames varies per item, item level, and such, but roughly once you start getting boss flame equips, anything above 100 is considered quote-unquote good. A great flame score would be around 120 to 130-ish. Most boss gear you'd want to aim for this, just about. Anything above 130 is considered amazing, and is good for mostly everything in the game. I personally wouldn't aim for this until you start getting arcanes and pitched boss items. Early on up to Abso, including the normal boss accessories set and the Rudibus set, I'd say aim for about 120-ish flame score. Most of flame score is honestly pretty arbitrary. It does make some sense of what stage you're at in the game, but it's not definitively reflective of how strong you are as a player, more so a rough estimation. Lastly, as for flaming gear efficiently, honestly it's all random. There's no tier-ups, no way to guarantee good rolls, nothing except throw flames at equips you're going to be keeping for a while, and hoping for something you can live with. Usually you'll want to aim for things like high main stat, maybe some attack or magic attack if you're a mage, sometimes some secondary stat if you come across that can help a teensy tiny bit, and some percent all stats. This applies to all your flammable gear, except weapon. For weapon, it's kinda similar, but not really. If you have a boss flame weapon like Fafnir, Absolab, Arcane, etc., you'll want a high attack more than anything else. Also, try and aim for a good enough other line, which can be percent all stats, percent boss, and percent damage is fine enough too. I'm fairly certain you can get any mix of these. Moving on, star forcing is the act of adding stars onto your gear. Each star is worth an amount of stats, increasingly going up depending on what number of stars it is on the item, and just about every single piece of gear can be star forced. The easiest way to tell is to hover over an item and look above the name. If there's a bunch of stars, that means it can be star forced. Items that can't be star forced are medals and emblems, pocket items, androids, and secondaries. The exception to no secondaries would be shields, which can be star forced. In some cases, like for mages and shadowers, it's better to use these over secondaries because of the fact that they can be star forced. Reg server can't star force until all the slots on their gear are used up completely, but Reboot can star force right from the get-go. I'll also quickly mention Tyrant gear, which drops from Hard Magnus in the form of a cape dropped from him, and shoes and belt from his coin shops. These cost more to star force, more than anything else in the game, and have their own tier up chances and such. Personally, I'd avoid star forcing these. Going back to the stars themselves, they each have their own success rate. From 0 to 1 stars, the chance of it succeeding is 95%. The success rate goes down 5% every subsequent star, up to 15 stars. Once it's at 15, it stays at 30% up to 22 stars. However, if you fail past 15, you'll drop down a star every failure. Though, once you reach 15, it can't go lower than that. The next threshold it stays at is 20 stars. However, with anything above 15 stars, there's a chance of your item being destroyed and becoming an item trace, typically called a boom or booming. This boom chance goes up the more stars past 15 you get, and if it does boom, the item trace is reset to 12 stars. The potential and flame of the item is kept as is, same with the scroll enhancement for reg servers, but the star force decreases back down to 12 no matter what if the item booms. To get your item back, you need a copy of the same item to transfer the item trace back onto, to restore said item to usable state. From 15 to 17 stars, you can click this button on the right, Safeguard, to protect you from booming your item at twice the meso cost. But once you reach 18 stars, you're on your own. There's no safety pass there. Honestly not worth doing this if you have backups, since the boom chance is still fairly low, but if it's an item you really don't want to lose currently, it's sometimes worth it. Typically the highest most want to go with star forcing ever is up to 22 stars, because past that, the success rate goes down from 30% at 21 to 22 to 3% at 22 to 23, with a nearly 20% chance to boom your item. It only gets worse from there, and realistically, you currently don't need gear past 22 stars for the furthest of endgame stuff. Also, if your star force goes down twice in a row, there's a pity system in place to give you a star back called Chance Time. It only applies if you go down to 2 star force, meaning you can't fail twice at 15 for it to pity you and go up, etc. Star catching is a mechanic / minigame that gives you an increased chance to successfully gain a star, and can be used at any number of star force. It doesn't cost anything, and it just requires you to do the kinda slowish minigame every time. You can disable this for it to go faster and have a lower success chance per star, but if you're willing to put in the effort, here's the gist of it. You have to land it within the center for it to count. Regardless if you enable or disable star catching, the more you star force, successfully or not, the faster star catching gets, as well as the smaller the hitbox for a successful star catch gets. Every 10 minutes of the hour, it does cool down, slow down and get a bigger hitbox again, but otherwise, it keeps getting relentlessly fast. Here's a tip. If you use left mouse click to star catch, it has a delay. Instead, use space for a faster, more accurate star catching. This bonus chance starts off at 5% and multiplicatively goes down over time, meaning it gets lower the more stars you have on said item. It's still an increase, but diminishing returns lower your chances bit by bit. I'll be honest, I never knew that. I thought it was roughly plus 5% at all ranks prior to researching this. As for the stats you gain, each star gives a few main stats depending on your job, and some other defensive stats like health or defense. As you get more stars, all the stats you gain per star go up further too. Past 15, every star gets increasingly more stats every subsequent star, now including attack. It varies per item type and level, but for this example, let's say an item between levels 160 to 199, like this Absolab armor piece. From 15 to 16, it gains 10 attack, 16 to 17, this goes up to 11 attack, and at 22 stars, this eventually goes up to 17 attack. Between all the stars from 15 to 22, that's 92 extra attack. The stats are all the same for these stars, but between 15 to 22, that's also an extra 91 main stat. It's incredibly worth getting more stars, but my suggestion, especially early on, is this. Stop around 17 stars until you get more backups. Getting to 15 or 16 star any day of the week now is incredibly easy, since Star Force doesn't drop until then. Star Force will also get you more overall gains than any other upgrades in the game. Full on, just flat attack with a ton of 17 star equips will help tremendously in every possible situation. Prioritize Star Forcing if you want it to be meso efficient, with going for cubing for your weapon's secondary and emblem after you get a decent amount of stars across all your equips. Also, Nexon tends to throw around a few Star Forcing events during sunny Sundays throughout the year. Things like 30% off all Star Forcing costs, or 5, 10, 15, which gives you 100% success rate when Star Forcing items at those Star Force ranks, and one event that combines both of these called Shining Star Force. That's right, 5, 10, 15, and 30% off Star Force costs. One of the best events for cheap gains. There's also some other events like 2 stars whenever you Star Force at 10 stars or below, but it's neither hard nor costly to get up to 10 to 12 stars nowadays. Good for mules or to get some Legion raid power and such, but these can largely be ignored. With the Guild Castle update, you can now also unlock a room that gives you 100% success chance with star catching without you having to do anything. It just does it automatically for you. And I think that covers about everything I can think of. Thanks for watching my guide. I hope I was able to help you, the viewer, understand flaming and star forcing a bit better, and I wish you luck on massive gains. I'll include links in the description for where I got a lot of these specific details, as well as things like a flame score calculator, and some other resources for more detailed specifics on things, like how much certain flame tiers give at what item level tiers and such. There's some other stat increasing items in the game I haven't talked about much yet, like familiars and traits and boss souls and such, but I'll get around to them later. Next class guide before then too. That's all.